Welcome to the Global Medical Device Podcast, where today's brightest minds in the medical device industry go to get their most useful and actionable insider knowledge, direct from some of the world's leading medical device experts and companies.
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Global Medical Device Podcast. My name is Etienne Nichols. I'm the host for today's episode. With me today is Scott Pantel to talk about LSI. Scott Pantel is the CEO and founder of Life Science Intelligence, the premier platform connecting early-stage medtech innovators with investors, strategics, and the resources they need to succeed. So, with over 20 years in the medtech industry, Scott's built a reputation as a trailblazer in bridging the gap between innovation and commercialization. Under his leadership, LSI has become a critical ecosystem for deal-making, fostering collaboration, driving investment in life-saving technologies. He's known for his deep insights, his deep understanding of market dynamics, and he's helped countless startups navigate the complex landscapes and achieve those transformative milestones. Beyond his professional accomplishments, Scott's a champion for the medtech community. He's driven by a mission to accelerate innovation and improve patient outcomes worldwide, and his work continues to inspire entrepreneurs, investors, and thought leaders in one of the world's most impactful industries. Scott, what did I miss, and how are you doing today?
Wow. Thank you, Etienne, for having me on your show. Thank you for that very kind and generous introduction. And it's a pleasure to be here with you today. And it's a pleasure to be partnered with industry leaders like Greenlight Guru that don't necessarily finance companies, don't acquire companies, but they do things that are really, really important to help them grow. And LSI and Greenlight Guru have been partners for some time now. It's a pleasure to be with you here today.
Really cool. Yeah, we've enjoyed that partnership. And that was one of the things that inspired us, me and my partner in crime, Paul. We were at the LSI event in Portugal, LSI Europe. And just a few months ago, I believe it was September, the months are starting to kind of mix for me a little bit. I don't know about you. But we were looking around at the ecosystem, and it's grown over the last several years that we've been going to your events and your shows. And in some ways, it's stayed very cozy in a way, in that you see some of the same faces. I saw that investor last time, or I know that thought leader in this different space with these different CEOs. And in other ways, you always see someone new. But I wanted to talk to you about your origin, how you started this, and how you've grown it to what it is today.
Yeah. And by the way, I was just taking a look at some of the interviews you did in Portugal. Great job. I love the work that you do. And the fact that you guys are always in the mix with the ecosystem, obviously at the events to connect with existing customers, but just supporting the industry in general, and a lot of great content that you created. We should try and figure out a way to do some more of that stuff in Dana Point.
Absolutely.
We'll be in Dana Point in March for our flagship meeting, and we're really excited about that as well. In terms of origin story, gosh, I'm going to really date myself here. So I got into the MedTech industry in 2000. So personally, coming up on 25 years of being in the space. I studied computer science here on the West Coast of California in the UC system. Was going to be a programmer in the mid 90s, found myself working for a big consulting firm, was working for PricewaterhouseCoopers, and was a programmer for, at the time, straight out of college for PepsiCo. And so we were supporting, the commercialization of tacos, Taco Bell, and other, beverages through the various PepsiCo channels. Loved the technology, loved being an engineer, but wasn't super excited about the space I was in. Not that those aren't fun and important spaces that make for great businesses, but I just wasn't super excited about the work that I was doing. Got lucky and found myself with a small little company called Medical Data International back in 2000, who did sort of what LSI does today, but in a very, very different way. So they ran events to bring together innovation and capital. They had a market intelligence platform, and they published newsletters with the mission of informing the ecosystem and connecting people. Fast forward to where we're at today, we've had several cycles and iterations of doing that type of work. But along the way, I've been fortunate enough to be partnered up with and to surround myself with people in industry and internally here who continue to ask the question of, or make the statement that there's got to be a better way to do it. So over the years, we have just tried to reinvent the methods that we use, the technologies that we employ to, again, do those traditional things, which are bring together the right people, put them in the same place at the same time, and arm them with insights so that they can make the best possible strategic decisions to advance their meetings forward. I would say a big turning point for us about 10 years ago, we really stepped back and looked at the way that events were being run. And I had some personal frustrations with going to, and I'm going to put in air quotes, going to investor meetings where there would be CEOs talking to other CEOs about their trials and tribulations with raising money. There would be the coveted group of 6 or 7 panelists from big, venture funds that would fly in for the meeting. They would do their panel, all amazing people, but inevitably after a couple of hours of being at that meeting, they would sort of slip off into the night and be off having dinner somewhere else. And we just said there's got to be a better way to do it. And so we spent the last several years working really, really hard, leaning into the investment community, finding venues where we believe people want to do real business and spend more than a couple hours at a time together. And fast forward to where we're at today, we're very grateful to have the support from groups like Greenlight Guru, from the investment community, from the major strategics, and from the best of best innovators that are willing to make huge investments of time and capital to come out and spend a few days with us. So that kind of thinking 10 years ago was the beginning of where we're at today. We have a lot of work to do, but we're really, really excited about what the future holds for our industry.
And it really feels like LSI has become almost that go-to event for MedTech deals. And you already mentioned a little bit about the magic behind bringing the right people in the room in such a way that they want to be together. I wonder if you could expand on that or a little bit. Well, I'm just going to back up for a second. And when I interact with you at the show, I always see Scott Pantel as he's busy. He has a lot of things he has to be doing, I'm sure, but you always seem to have focus for the person who's right in front of you. And I've always admired that about you. It's been something I've seen from a distance and then experienced as well. And I wonder if you can share some of that magic in just getting the right people in the room and having the right conversations. Any recommendations or thoughts?
Well, thank you for that. I don't always feel as focused as it may look, but we try as an organization, we talk about this a lot, really hard to stay in the moment, to control what we can control. And we also are big believers that we're a data organization. So we, just like any successful company, they're measuring key metrics. They are getting inputs from their various customer segments to find out what's working and where we need improvements. But we're very much a data-driven organization. In addition, we're big believers that some things can't be measured. And so I could share with you countless stories where a CEO or a founder of a company came to an LSI event, or a venture investor came to an event with a very clear mandate. Investor is checking in on their portfolio companies, aiming to syndicate with other investors, wants to find a new deal, like very specific, measurable objectives. The founder or CEO is coming out, they're raising capital, and they want to meet with this VC, and this VC. And we need to attack all of those objectives. But countless stories of the things they come back for are often the things they never expected would happen. And that often involves bumping into you at the coffee area, or having lunch next to a person that they didn't anticipate meeting. They ended up establishing a connection with, ending up in a cab ride back to the airport with someone. Those intangibles only happen if we get the right people together for an extended period of time. And then, we have to have fun doing it. So we are all going to have a couple meals each day. We're all going to socialize. We're all digesting as much content as we can in the sessions. So when we're at those breaks and those social things, why not make it enjoyable and try to create an environment where people, again, they want to break bread, they want to talk, they're willing to ask that person next to them, what is it that you're working on? So it's the stuff beyond the measurables that I think actually have proven out to be just as valuable, if not more valuable, than the things that we go into these events clearly being able to measure.
I agree. You mentioned just a few examples of bumping into somebody at the coffee shop or at the coffee stand or taking a taxi ride back. I've actually experienced both of those. So what was funny to me in LSI Dana Point last, I guess it was still this year, early this year, feels like it's been a long year. I was just about to get into the Uber and I'd been talking to somebody and said, hey, you just want to ride with me? We're just going to the airport. We're leaving a little bit early. And she happened to be flying to Nashville, which is where I am. And we just hit it off and basically we had a lot of good conversation around clinical investigations. She was a clinical expert. Similarly in Portugal, something similar happened with, I can't remember the name of the company that was acquired by Integra, but they were one of the keynotes in the evening. And
Yeah.
Alexi, the former CEO, he and I just bumped into each other. He used to be affiliated with Greenlight Guru as a customer. And so we just had a lot of conversations, and hopefully we'll have a conversation potentially on the podcast. So I've personally seen that happen. You mentioned countless stories. I'm sure you have even more stories. Are there any that just stand out as one of your favorites that you could share?
Gosh, there are so many. This is a kind of a serious one, I guess, but I want to share it. So Bernard Zovigian, who's the new CEO of Edwards Lifesciences, which is located here in Orange County. So they're one of the Southern California, major strategics that the incredible company. Obviously, the innovation that they developed over the years is incredible. And they're in our backyard, so we know the company really well. So Bernard Zovigian was one of our keynotes at the event last year. And I had the chance, a great example of a very successful and busy executive who will slow down in the hall, will look you in the eyes, and will sincerely ask you how he can help or what it is that the corporation that he's running can do better. Very impressed with his leadership. Tremendous panel, great session. Few days after this last Dana Point, my Auntie Donna, who was facing some pretty serious health risks, found herself overnight in cardiac surgery, getting an Edwards valve placed in her. And it turns out that that valve and those amazing clinicians saved her life. So the follow-up for me was just a note of gratitude and thanks to Bernard and to his team and all of his engineers who had developed that technology that ended up getting implanted in Auntie Donna, who's, by the way, doing great today. Just saw her over the weekend.
Great.
But the response that I got back from him was, again, a reinforcement that sincerity and that genuine willingness in our industry for people to help and want to do good, it transcends from the highest levels all the way to first-time founders and people that are new to the LSI organization. People, I think, in our industry really want to do good. So that's just an example of one that I recently had, but I mean, so many others. We'll be on the golf course on Friday. Greenlight Guru sponsors a big golf outing that we do on Fridays. We get beat up a little bit about that occasionally. Like, you got these companies that are coming to your event to raise money, but then you're running these golf outings at 5-star resorts. You'd be shocked by how much business is done at those social events on the golf course. And my response to that, sincerely, is always, if the objective is to raise capital, let's get people that are sources of capital to connect with people that are raising the capital. And if one way to do that is to spend some time on the golf course, I can't think of a better use of time, resources, or the investment that's made for that. So anyway, I got off on a tangent there, but I just got off the phone with actually Paul talking about the golf event for Dana Point. So I'm a little fired up about it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a really good point because sometimes in this industry, at least a few tiers down, maybe the CEO and the C-suite recognize the power of relationship But I don't think we always recognize that in industry. Sometimes someone I've seen this so many times. I'm sure you've seen the same thing where they look at the person, they recognize this person can't help me, moving on to the next one. And I can understand when you've paid a lot of money to be at a certain place, you have business to do, but you don't always recognize who potentially could help you as well. Well, I'll just give a real quick story. I'd rather hear your stories, but
No,
you
no, I
inspired
want to
me
hear
to,
yours.
you brought this up at LSI Portugal to me, so I'm just going to go ahead and tell it. My wife got a new pacemaker in September. It was Labor Day. And it was Friday when they implanted it. It was a new one. She's had this for a long time. So they put a new pacemaker in. And I posted on LinkedIn about that. Just I really appreciate the med tech industry and the ecosystem. It makes you appreciate what we really have in this ecosystem. Well, the very next day, she was having issues with her pacemaker. They had changed some of the settings and she had some throbbing that going on. And if you rewind to the surgery, when they brought the papers out and they just were talking to Elizabeth, I secretively take pictures of the paperwork just to make sure we have all the things that I want to know, all the details. I want to know the voltage. I want to know all the different things. So the next day when she's having issues, I said, okay, the doctor said go to the ER. We will, but I'm going to call Medtronic. She says, well, we don't have their number. I said, well, I actually do have the rep's number from the pictures that I took. So we called her and she said, yeah, I'll drive to the hospital right now, meet you there, and we'll change those settings because I don't, we'll figure out what's going on. And so she met us there. The ER doctors weren't sure what to do, but I said, well, let's just wait. She's going to come. And it really is an ecosystem that people care about each other and want the best for each other is what I've seen.
Absolutely. I think, and I'm glad that your wife's doing better and recovering. That's great to hear. Something you didn't share, and I'm going to share it for the world here, if it's okay. That I think that you and your family are expecting
Yeah.
child number 4 here in the
Yeah.
coming week. So congratulations on that. But like, I couldn't agree with you more. The ecosystem that we have, it's filled with really smart people that are running businesses that want to do well, but that sincerely across the board are working on big projects that make a difference, right? And we all enter this world through some support of a medical technology, and we all, when we leave this world, are going to be supported by some medical technologies. And so it's the people in our industry that are developing all those technologies to make this world a happier, healthier place, something that we talk about a lot here. And I think it's just filled with great people, with really smart, amazing people that want to do good. Get them all together. Again, we bring all those people together and we want to help each other. And I've seen it over and over and over. So it's one of the reasons I will stay in this industry, and I love being a part of it.
One of the companies that I was just communicating with, I watched their pitch. It was Metios, I believe was the name of the company. I got to talking with their COO, Olga Chashina, and she was talking to me a little bit about culture map and different high context versus low context cultures. And what made me think of that is you mentioning getting beat up a little bit about the golf course or the different things the different relationship building activities that you have. But different cultures do business a little bit differently. Some really require a relationship before they're even going to do do business. And so in a culture that doesn't value that necessarily, they may not understand or recognize the value there, but some cultures, that's the only way to do business as well. So I think that's an interesting point to bring up.
Yeah, yes, agree completely. When we launched our European meeting 3 years ago, so we've had our flagship meeting in the US in March in Dana Point. We launched our meeting in Europe a few years ago, which we rotate around each year in the fall timeframe. We internally talked about what we didn't want to do, which was just bring the US meeting to Europe and say, here we are.
Right.
We knew that would not be the right strategy based on what you just said. These are different cultures that do business in slightly different ways. And so what we're grateful we were able to do is we were able to tap into our community of European executives to get their insights and to help us build and to do things a little bit differently. But it all goes back to what you said, which is that it's all about relationships. One of the things we talk about over and over is the power of relationships and the importance of taking time and not pushing too fast, too early. And you'll hear that over and over from investors. They want to, it might be a no today, but it's not a no forever. It's a not now. And if you're patient with that and you do the things that you say you're going to do, I've seen great things happen in a year, 6 months, 12 months, 18 months down the road that you didn't expect would happen when you got that first not now. So anyway, an observation.
Yeah. And one of the things I'd be curious about is to hear more about your process for maybe what you think a successful company coming to you to be on stage, maybe to put their pitch together, any piece of advice. At some point, we'll do another episode where we get into the nitty-gritty details of, here's what founders should be doing to really be successful with an investor. But if we look at this as more of a high level, what are some things that you think, these are the companies when they come to us, we think, oh yes, you are going to fit right in for XYZ. Are there any piece of criteria that come to mind like that?
I mean, there's some basic ingredients that we look for that I think, most people would agree are paramount. Number one is the team, having a solid and credible team. And that doesn't necessarily have to be a team that's been through 4 or 5 exits. It just needs to be a team that's well built out, that is cohesive, and that understands the mission. The second piece is having an innovative technology and hopefully attacking a large and or dynamic market. I think the piece that is sometimes missed or not addressed as powerfully as it could be, and I'll steal a line or a statement from one of the investors that attends our meetings quite regularly. Her name is Diana Saraceni from Panakes, a European venture fund, very successful. And she says very directly from stage in one of our panels, in fact, I've recycled the clip because I think it was so honest and refreshing, but so important. And she says something like, we get pitches all the time. We don't mind getting those pitches all the time. Tell us how we're going to make money. And so you can have a great team, a really incredible technology, attacking a big and dynamic market. But if you want to raise capital and go all the way, you need to be able to articulate in a very concise and compelling way how you're going to make money for your investors and therefore how you're going to be a successful company. And that may sound like really elementary, but it's something that I think is missed over and over. And I would just add one more thing to that statement or that positioning should come very early on the conversation, but not too early, right? So it's a back to that balance and like knowing who you're talking to and what their cultural response is going to be to your approach. But understanding all those things, a little art in addition to the science can go a long way.
Yeah. I think that's good advice. It does seem like it could be elementary, but if she has to say it from stage, it's obviously not. It's obviously something that needs to be repeated. In project management, they said nobody hears you until you've said it 7 times. And so maybe you could just say it a few more. Thinking of those different cultures that LSI is entering, obviously you have Dana Point, California. We've talked a little bit about Europe. I mentioned Portugal. Sounds like it's going to be in London this year. Am I correct?
That's right.
There's a third that you're kind of opening up, and it's Singapore. Tell me a little bit about that and what the thinking is behind that.
Yeah, really excited to be, launching our first event in Asia. This will not be a one and done thing. It's consideration we've been making for some time. And our move to go there is purely based on demand. The APAC markets are no longer emerging markets, nice to have growth opportunities. These are big and established markets that if you're going to be a player in the industry, you have to have a plan and an approach for how you're going to access those markets. In addition to that, the other factor and variable is that there's a lot of capital in those markets that is interested in getting into the healthcare space. It's either already in the healthcare space for some pretty substantial groups, or there's new capital in the APAC area that's interested in getting into the space. And so we just felt like it was a huge opportunity, one, to bring the community together and further access these critical markets. And then two, we want to shine a light. We want to shine a light on the greatest innovations that are out there and attract capital. And so by bringing some of those innovations to the APAC region, by the way, we're not just going to be hosting, innovators from that region. We're going to be bringing innovators over from the US, from Europe to that region. So it will be a global meeting. We want to shine a light on them, attract more capital so we can get solutions more quickly to patients that need the help and that can benefit from the work that's being done. And we are fully committed to it. It's been a couple of years in the making, so we've been thinking about it, and 2025 just ends up being the perfect time for us to do it.
The companies that are coming over from the US and other regions, does it look like it's going to be quite a few of the alumni from previous, or do you even have newer companies who maybe have never been to any LSI event coming from the US to the Singapore event?
Yeah, a lot of new companies that have never been to an event, but there are a percentage of alumni that have said, we want to be a part of this. We want to get access to this ecosystem. We're coming over. It's a little early to put numbers out, but I would say early numbers show that it's about 30%, 40% alumni, and the balance are new. I think that will shift. I think we'll see more new companies over time. The alumni are aware of what we do and how the program is, so they're kind of early adopters. But over time, I think we'll probably see 70% new companies, new capital, 30% alumni is sort of where we're forecasting things.
Yeah. And those of you listening, you may be thinking I'm just trying to do a commercial for LSI. I'm genuinely interested in all these different regions and curious about how these different events are built and the things that go on behind closed doors. One of my favorite sessions I've ever been I moderated a CEO forum at one point in my career where I was the only one. I looked around, I said, I don't belong in this room. Honestly, I didn't feel like I belonged. I was in order to be in that room, to have that conversation, it's unrecorded. You had to be a CEO of a profitable medical device company. And my job was to moderate these 12 CEOs. And I learned a lot in that 1 hour, 2 hours, whatever it was. And when I go to an LSI event, it's the same thing. It's walking around is essentially a masterclass for me on pitching and everything else. So I'll share one other little tidbit because this was interesting. Please. I was walking around and I made friends with one CEO. It was his third company. He had exited twice, and so he was on his way to a pitch meeting. I said, "Well, do you mind if I just go with you?" I wouldn't ordinarily recommend this, but he and I had kind of hit it off pretty well. So yeah, come to my pitch, and I'll just kind of show you how to pitch. And just that kind of mentorship that I can't see happening, I've never seen happen anywhere else is pretty incredible.
Yeah, that's a great story. I'd like to know who that was so I can sit on his pitch.
I'll tell you after
we
stop recording. So.
Yeah,
that was fun. Any other pieces or any thoughts that you would have or invitations or any thoughts to those listening? I don't know who you're calling to come to Singapore, to Dana Point, what kind of people you would love to have there, but just,
Yeah, I mean, I guess the thing that we talk about here that we believe strongly in, are passionate about, is that, when I got into this industry, call it 25 years ago, it was a different industry, and it was still helping patients and doing incredibly important and meaningful work. But in terms of the technologies we were working on, it wasn't nearly as sophisticated, as exciting as I think the world we operate in today. And so I share this story occasionally in that, I have 20 and 22-year-old boys. And so they're of the, recently graduated college age or in the middle of it. And so therefore, so are all of their friends. And I think that our industry will be at the next level when we ask young men and women of that age group, like, what industry are you going into? And one of the first things they think of is MedTech. That's not always the answer I get today when I ask my boys and their friends, hey, where are you going to go? It's not always MedTech, but I can tell you The answer today is more often, tell me about MedTech, tell me about healthcare. I'm interested much more today than it was 5, 10, or especially 20 years ago. The point I'm trying to make is I think there's never been a more exciting time with the convergence of all the incredible AI connectivity technologies that we're seeing, advanced visualization technologies, digital health, all these technologies that are coming to play today. It's created the most exciting time ever. And I think we're going to see more and more young leadership coming out of universities and colleges that want to get into our space. I think that that's one of the most important things is attracting new talent to our space to take advantage of the existing talent that wants to share and that wants to give and wants to do the things like just happened to you where somebody put their arm around you and said, come on, let's go, come to my pitch right now. I think they were probably doing it because they wanted to help you. And they see a young, smart guy in our industry that could take the industry to the next level. So I guess I would invite any parents that are out there to encourage their children, their nieces, nephews, neighbors to get interested in this space because there is no industry that can have a bigger impact in our world than our space. And I believe that firmly.
Yeah, I just want to kind of reemphasize one thing there. When I think about, and feel free to correct me as you are close to the trends and so on, but when I look at the way healthcare is right now, just healthcare and the emerging technology with wearables and so on, and the amount of data, now that we could take all of this data and turn it into true information that is readable by the patient and the patient's desire to own that data and own their health outcomes, it really is an incredible market to be in right now. There's going to be a lot of changing the next decade. I see so much change on the horizon.
The most exciting time ever. I mean, they're saying that where we're at right now is the equivalent of where we were at in the late, 1999 with respect to the internet era, and where we're at today with AI and healthcare. Well, AI and the world in general is another one of those moments. And so I think, we overestimate what we can get done in a year. We underestimate what we can get done in 5 and 10 years. And I think truly we'll look back in 5 and 10 years and realize that the work that the people in our space did and the support, hopefully, Etienne, that we give them, Greenlight Guru and LSI, the support we give them helps them to, again, do big things and make an impact in ways that no other industry can do.
Yes, it's exciting. I can't wait to see more of it. And I'm excited to see you in person at Dana Point. And those who've been listening, definitely check the show notes. We'll put links to the sessions at LSI and the ways you can get in touch with Scott. And we'll put just links to all the different things that we've talked about. If you're interested in a more in-depth, nitty-gritty analysis of if you're a founder walking into LSI for the first time, what should your game plan look like? Reach out to me and let me know. Maybe we can put one of those together in the future before LSI, and we can maybe get some alumni or some just different conversations to make sure that you're set up for success as well, so you can take full advantage of the conversations that you may be having. But yeah, anything to add, Scott?
I'm gonna throw out an offer to you here.
Sure.
We are doing, for any of the college football fans out there that know of this game day concept where, right, you know what game day is? You've seen like the broadcasters on stage and then all the crazy fans in the background cheering them on where they're talking about the forthcoming game. Well, we're gonna recreate game day in Dana Point. We're gonna have a cool stage, and we want to encourage genuine, real-time, unscripted conversations with people in the industry. And I see you with your headset on there. I can see game day. And so I want to invite you. I'm going to put you on the spot. Will you be one of our game day commentators at LSI USA in Dana Point this March?
Oh man, you're making my dreams come true. Absolutely. I'll be there.
Okay. And by the way, I just thought of that on the fly. I mean, we're going to do it, but this wasn't scripted. For anybody thinking that was planted, it's not planted. I want to do it. And if you're up for it, it's going to be awesome. Maybe we can have a follow-on conversation as well.
Absolutely. Run it by your team. Get there. Okay. I'll bring my headphones. It'll be great.
Maybe we can get Gary Guthart, CEO of Intuitive Surgical, to step in for game day. He's going to be one of our keynote speakers. We all know that Intuitive Surgical is one of the most interesting stories of MedTech in the last many, many years. And wouldn't it be cool if you could get him on game day? I don't know if it's going to be possible, but
Yeah.
call it Gary.
Okay.
Maybe. All right.
All right. Well, those of you listening, more to come. Definitely, you don't want to miss LSI this year for sure. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. So
Thank you, Etienne.
thank you, Scott. I'll let you get back to it. Those who've been listening, thank you so much for listening, and tune back in for next time for more insights. We'll see you all next time. Take care.
Thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this episode, can I ask a special favor from you? Can you leave us a review on iTunes? I know most of us have never done that before, but if you're listening on the phone, look at the iTunes app, scroll down to the bottom where it says leave a review. It's actually really easy. Same thing with the computer. Just look for that leave a review button. This helps others find us and it lets us know how we're doing. Also, I'd personally love to hear from you on LinkedIn. Reach out to me. I read and respond to every message because hearing your feedback is the only way I'm going to get better. Thanks again for listening, and we'll see you next time.